Not long before the wedding, I discovered that my wife, who had claimed to be on a business trip, was actually living downstairs with her first love, Leo. They acted like a couple in love, unashamedly kissing each other, enjoying each other's warmth. I confronted her, but she impatiently replied, "After we get married, I'll be yours alone. But right now, I just want to be with Leo one last time before the wedding, so don't make a scene at this moment." I was filled with disappointment, turned around and left, deciding to cancel the meticulously planned wedding. She was completely indifferent to my decision. However, when I really chose not to attend the wedding and completely cut ties with her, she began to regret it. I stood outside the slightly ajar front door, listening to the familiar voices inside, feeling a bit hesitant, not daring to push the door open easily. The intimate conversation between the two inside was clearly audible. "I really want to keep you by my side. Why not just not marry James? He's a cripple. He doesn't deserve you at all." The one speaking is Sarah's first love, Leo, and Sarah is already my wife, who has just received our marriage certificate and is about to enter the marriage hall. I leaned against the wall, nervously wondering what Sarah would say. "James's leg is crippled, all because of me. I can't just abandon him like that. But before the wedding, my time is entirely yours. Let's not bring up those depressing things again." Her disdainful words pierced my heart. From inside, their sticky kissing sounds came again, like the rhythm of clashing lips. "There are only a few days left until the wedding. Tonight, I will definitely not let you go. Come shower with me." I clenched my fist and slammed it heavily against the door. The door that wasn't properly closed was pushed open by me, making a loud noise. This sound interrupted the two closely connected inside the room, as well as the enchanting atmosphere in the room. Sarah's clothes were half undressed, and Leo's hand roamed freely over her body. Although I had already guessed what scene would unfold when I opened the door, the moment I saw it with my own eyes, anger still surged within me. Sarah screamed as she fixed her clothes, and when she saw it was me, a hint of guilt flashed across her face. "James, what are you doing here?" She instinctively pushed Leo into the bathroom, then closed the door and quickly walked up to me. Looking at Sarah, who appeared confused, my mood suddenly calmed down. This question should actually be asked by me. "Sarah, why are you here?" 7 days ago, Sarah told me her company had an urgent matter and she would be on a business trip for a while. That day, I personally took her to the airport, watching her walk into the boarding gate. I still remember her tightly hugging me in front of the boarding gate, looking reluctant to part. The wedding is approaching, and with my departure, the remaining chores will be all on you. However, this project is really important. I will come back as soon as possible, and after the wedding, we must enjoy our time together. However, just now I learned from their conversation that day Sarah didn't even get on the plane. After I left, she returned here with Leo, who was waiting outside the airport, right downstairs from our wedding suite. If it weren't for the elevator breaking down, when I came back today using the stairs, I would never have discovered any of this. Sarah didn't answer me and turned to walk upstairs. "Sarah, can you explain to me what just happened?" I questioned her. Her expression suddenly darkened as she sat restlessly on the sofa. "Didn't you see it all?" she replied coldly. "We're about to get married, and I will completely belong to you afterwards. But for now, I just want to be a couple with Leo one more time before the wedding. I hope you won't make a scene." Her words felt very strange to me, wanting to rekindle a romance with her first love before marriage. It was almost incomprehensible to me. Her words echoed in my mind, making me feel ridiculous. I took off the wedding ring from my ring finger and threw it on the ground, revealing a faint bitter smile. "I never regretted breaking my leg to save you, nor did I ever think to use that favor to morally bind you, or to make you owe me your life. If you feel I'm just a burden, then let's cancel the wedding. The marriage is over." At this moment, a glass cup suddenly smashed at my feet. Shattered glass shards cut across my ankle. Blood immediately gushed out. "Do you know what you're saying? I invited many important people to this wedding, and now you tell me you want a divorce and to cancel the wedding. Do you know what this means for me? How am I supposed to face others, Sarah angrily grabbed something nearby and threw it at me. An ashtray suddenly smashed into my right knee. The intense pain made me collapse to the ground. Sarah coldly stared at my leg, her tone filled with disdain and contempt, sending a chilling shiver down my spine. You have been relying on me all these years. You're a cripple. After leaving me, you won't even have a place to stay. Where do you plan to go? I already explained it just now. There's no need to keep dragging this out. 4 years ago, Sarah worked part-time selling drinks at a club to raise startup funds. One night, she encountered a drunk man while promoting drinks, who started to get handsy with her. She was worried that resisting would cost her the job, so she could only endure. It wasn't until he tore her clothes that she screamed out loud. I witnessed this scene, and I was filled with the impulse to help her. So I rushed forward without hesitation to rescue Sarah from that man. The people who come to the club have their own backgrounds. As a result, they smashed my right knee and broke my right leg before finally letting me and Sarah go. Afterwards, although I went to the hospital for treatment in time, the knee injury could not fully heal, and even after the fractured leg healed. But the knee injury cannot fully recover. Even if the broken leg heals, it still leaves serious aftereffects, and they became known as the crippled one. After getting the diagnosis, Sarah cried uncontrollably and promised me that after she made money, she would take me to see a better doctor, and that from then on she would always put me first. Since then, Sarah often kept in touch with me, and we naturally became a couple. In fact, I had known her before this, but she did not know me. After being together, I often felt grateful that I was taken to the club that day, and even more grateful that I rushed in to save her. However, the injuries I sustained while saving her have now become a burden in her eyes. Just now, Sarah, knowing full well about my leg injury, still threw the ashtray at my knee. I couldn't convince myself that she didn't do it on purpose. She didn't mean to. After kneeling on the ground to relieve some pain, I finally had enough strength to support myself and stand up. Without me at the wedding, you can easily find someone to replace me, so it won't affect your reputation. I calmly stated this, as if I were merely a bystander giving her advice. Sarah looked at me, gritting her teeth as she spoke. I can indeed find someone to replace you, but you only have this one chance. I understood the underlying message in her words. If I didn't take the step down she offered me, she wouldn't give me another opportunity. Forget it. Perhaps I shouldn't have agreed to be with Sarah out of guilt. I agreed to be with Sarah because I was touched by her uncommon resilience. Knowing she was still short on her startup funds, I took on several part-time jobs despite my leg injury to save money with her. Finally, we saved enough for her startup, but my leg injury became more severe. For these years, I've been revolving around Sarah. Even my friends say I've lost myself for her. This time, leaving her, I've decided to live for myself. When I left, besides the sound of things being smashed behind me, Sarah didn't say a word to keep me. I had anticipated this. Over the past few years, I gave everything to Sarah, almost burning myself out. I didn't have a job or friend circle that truly belonged to me. In her eyes, my life revolved entirely around her, and she thought I couldn't live without her. She believed that even if I left, I'd eventually come back to her, defeated. But this time, I won't do that again. As I reached the next floor, Leo's door was open. As I passed by, he leaned against the doorframe, his gaze fixed on my limping leg. With a smug expression, Leo coldly said, "Sarah is not someone a cripple like you can aspire to. Knowing better, she should be given to someone more suitable." He slightly raised his chin while speaking, his eyes filled with disdain, staring at my right leg. I stopped in my tracks, meeting his gaze, my tone equally sarcastic. "A man who only turns back after he knows she has money. How good can he be?" Hearing this, the mocking smile on Leo's face vanished instantly. "Only someone like you would use moral coercion to keep a woman. The 4-year relationship between Sarah and me is definitely not as superficial as you imagine. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taken the time to enjoy moments alone with me before holding a wedding with you. Even if you two are married, the person she truly thinks about is always me." He walked upstairs with a triumphant air. His gaze full of provocation as he turned back. I ignored him. He walked down the stairs awkwardly on his own. Back then, Sarah had to take so many part-time jobs in a day, because after graduation, Leo falsely claimed he was seriously ill. Not wanting to burden her, he suggested breaking up. During the breakup, he used treatment as an excuse and tricked Sarah out of all her money. Now that he knows she has succeeded in her business and has her own company, Leo has hurriedly come back to find her. I noticed Sarah was by his side just now. Leo's contribution cannot be ignored. The door that was intentionally left ajar, and those words, were all deliberately meant for me to overhear. Sarah can't see through him, but I can see clearly. However, the issues between Sarah and me do indeed exist. After leaving the community, I took a taxi directly to the hospital. The wound on my leg was caused by glass, and my knee also suffered a secondary injury, so I need to get it checked. When I finished bandaging and left the hospital, it was completely dark outside. Just as I was considering whether to quickly rent a place or find somewhere to stay for the night, a car stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, and I saw my college friend Nathan, one of the few people who still considers me a friend. He looked at my injured state, his gaze quickly scanning my bandaged ankle, and then invited me to get in the car. On the way, he didn't mention Sarah, nor did he ask why I was standing alone on the road in the middle of the night. I felt surprisingly relaxed, and I took the initiative to tell him about the cancellation of my wedding with Sarah. He patted my shoulder and said in a light tone, "I've been wanting to recruit you to work with me for a long time. Your talents shouldn't go to waste. I have an important position here waiting for you. How about working with me?" Hearing such respect, I couldn't help but smile. A smile I hadn't shown in a long time. In the next 2 days, I stayed at Nathan's house. I found a lawyer who helped me draft the divorce agreement regarding the joint property during the marriage. I only asked to get back the startup funds I initially gave to Sarah. As for the money she earned from her company over the years, I didn't ask for a single cent. The day I received the divorce agreement happened to be her wedding day. Sarah called me. Her tone was impatient. "James, where are you?" I felt my patience was running thin, and I didn't want to be urged anymore. After 2 seconds of silence, I heard Leo fanning the flames beside me. "Why don't you apologize to him so that he won't be angry and go against you? After all, so many people came today. It's really inconsiderate of him to leave you alone here." I heard Sarah sneer and say, "There's no need to apologize to him. If there really was something between us, I broke up with him a long time ago. How could I still be marrying him now? If he doesn't come, I can easily find someone to replace him." She and Leo were chatting back and forth. They didn't give me a chance to interject at all. I quietly hung up the phone and immediately sent the electronic version of the divorce agreement to Sarah. "I've already prepared the divorce agreement, and after her wedding is over, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to process the divorce." Then I sent another message. The content was in red. However, Sarah blocked me. I smiled bitterly, picked up the materials Nathan gave me, trying to distract myself, but the incessant ringing of my phone made it hard to focus. Subconsciously, I opened my phone and saw several message notifications. The title was about an inspiring female entrepreneur and her first love, holding a grand wedding. I clicked on the notification, and what caught my eye was the familiar wedding venue. Every detail of this wedding was meticulously arranged by me after a month of busy preparations. I am aware of the grand scale of this wedding, and I have been looking forward to it for a long time, even preparing and rehearsing my speech on stage multiple times. I once thought that Sarah and I would have an unparalleled wedding. However, all the beauty vanished the moment I discovered Sarah's betrayal. It instantly turned to nothing. Journalists invited to this wedding captured many moments. Sarah and Leo gazed at each other affectionately. They reminisced about the little things from their 7 years together, while my 3 years with Sarah seemed insignificant under their happiness. Our 7 years were not always smooth sailing, but I hope we can continue to be happy together in the future. "Sarah, do you want to be with me forever?" They gazed deeply into each other's eyes, and Sarah shed tears of happiness at this heartfelt confession. "I do." Amidst the enthusiastic cheers, they held each other tightly and kissed each other. This scene, symbolizing true love and eternity, quickly spread online, becoming the focus of heated discussions. Everyone envied their unchanging love for 7 years, but I found it all ridiculous. During the 3 years I was with her, we did indeed fall in love at first. After raising funds for Sarah's startup, My leg injury flared up again, making it impossible for me to walk normally for a long time. So, I took the initiative to take care of Sarah. In the morning, when she hurriedly left, I had already prepared breakfast for her. No matter how late she came back from working overtime, I was always waiting for her. I never saw any disdain for my limp in her eyes. However, everything changed after Leo reappeared. She started staying out all night and became irritated by my presence. Her catchphrase became, "Can you be like Leo?" It even went so far as to arrange a final date with Leo before the wedding. I thought I would have to wait until the next day to contact Sarah again, but shortly after the wedding ended, I received a message from her. "Come back." This message appeared on the failure page of the prompt I sent her. The page showing the message failed to send. I glanced at the time. It was already 4 in the afternoon. Even if I went to find her with the divorce agreement now, I wouldn't make it to the Civil Affairs Bureau in time to get divorced. "I'll see you tomorrow." The Civil Affairs Bureau is about to close for the day. As soon as I sent this message, Sarah called me. "You're still throwing a tantrum now. When will you stop this unreasonable fuss? Since you want a divorce, then just come over. I won't wait for you." She stubbornly believes that every word I say is me throwing a fit, which leaves me feeling exhausted both physically and mentally. But to resolve our issues as quickly as possible, I still agreed to her request. Sarah didn't change the password. After entering the original password, the door opened. She sat expressionlessly on the sofa, while Leo was desperately belittling me. The sound of the door opening interrupted Leo's incessant chatter, and their gazes turned to me. "James, today you left Sarah alone at the wedding, almost making her the laughingstock. Now you come over without even an apology. Do you even care about her?" Sarah looked at me in silence, clearly agreeing with Leo's words. To make Sarah understand my position, I retorted without mercy, "If I expose your affair at the scene, you would only be more embarrassed. Since you want to resolve this today, then just sign it. After signing, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate, and from then on we'll be fine on our own." I threw the signed divorce agreement onto the table in front of them. Leo saw the words divorce agreement, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes, but he said nothing, instead remaining silent like an invisible man. Sarah flipped through a few pages of the divorce agreement and angrily threw it at me, "Each to their own. James, I really underestimated you. You almost embarrassed me with your outburst. If it weren't for Leo stepping in for you, people outside wouldn't know how to judge me now. I didn't even lose my temper, and you threatened me with divorce." She questioned me hoarsely, as if I were the one betraying our relationship. I squatted down to pick up the divorce agreement, already accustomed to facing her accusations. I calmly said, "It's fine if you don't want to sign. Just go ahead and file for divorce. I'm leaving, giving you one last chance to be a couple." Perhaps sensing the sarcasm in my tone, Sarah let out a cold laugh twice. She suddenly snatched the divorce agreement from my hands, the speed so quick that the paper grazed my palm, leaving a trace of blood. This trivial pain couldn't shake the calm within me. In her hands, the divorce agreement instantly turned into a pile of scraps. Sarah tore up the agreement and refused to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce with me. It wasn't until now that I realized her unreasonable behavior was impossible to deal with. But at this moment, Leo, who was preparing to take my place after I fell, was even more anxious. Seeing Sarah tear up the divorce agreement, still strongly opposed to the divorce, he hurriedly stepped forward to persuade her. "Sarah, doesn't he just want a divorce? Then you should divorce him and make him understand. A cripple can't survive without you." He continued speaking, accusing me of not cherishing Sarah's sincerity towards me, his words laced with sharp sarcasm. Sarah looked at me with a contemptuous gaze, as if waiting for me to admit my mistake like before. The pain in my knee began to throb again. Just as Leo was about to speak again, my fist had already struck his face. The anger finally found an outlet, followed by a flurry of punches. "Did I say something wrong, James? What right do you have to lay hands on me? You, a cripple, don't deserve Sarah at all. You're just taking advantage of the fact that you saved her to repay a debt." I pinned Leo down and hit him hard. He was too weak to fight back, only able to attack me with words. I punched him in the face, gripped his neck and warned, "Someone who becomes a third party for money and destroys other people's families has no right to speak to me with sarcasm here. Keep arguing. I'll make you just as crippled as I am." I've never been the kind of person who just endures in silence. Over the years, I've been Sarah's support, and I've suppressed my temper in front of her. But that doesn't mean I'll let anyone bully me. I was almost out of my mind, choking Leo by the neck, watching his face turn red and purple. Yet I still wouldn't let go, until a sharp slap rang out on my face. Sarah forcefully pushed me away, and I was finally able to sit back down on the ground, gasping for breath. "James, are you crazy?" Her voice was filled with anger. "Just now, I really wanted to strangle him. It was me who went to find Leo. What are you getting mad at him for? If you have the guts, come at me." Sarah's eyes glimmered with tears, trying to put on a brave face. I let out a cold laugh, slowly pushing myself up to stand. "Sarah, do you really think that no matter what you do, I won't get angry at you?" Sarah didn't respond, but I could read her thoughts from her expression. She believes I won't treat her the same way I treat Leo. I coldly stared at Sarah, who was carefully helping Leo up, and continued, "About what you did, don't even say we already have a marriage certificate. Even if we were just dating, if the media exposes this, your reputation will be completely ruined. Since you won't accept my calm discussion about divorce, then let's go through legal procedures for the divorce." In the original divorce agreement, I only asked for part of the startup funds, but through legal procedures, the marital property must be divided equally. If it weren't for my efforts back then, Sarah would have been in trouble long ago, let alone the startup capital and success. This money, I take it with a clear conscience. But some people don't think so. Leo covered his face, as if he had grasped my weakness, and loudly accused me, exposing my true nature, claiming that I only wanted to take Sarah's hard-earned money. As soon as he said that, I immediately stepped forward and kicked him hard. He moved his hand from his face to his stomach, and was no longer able to provoke me. "I'm submitting the divorce application to the court tonight." After saying that, I left without looking back. But Sarah suddenly put down the pained Leo, and tightly grabbed me, not allowing me to leave. She said, "No, I do not agree to the divorce. The wedding today was missed because of you. I can overlook this matter, but I absolutely will not agree to divorce you." At the moment Sarah grabbed me, I felt like I had touched something filthy. She immediately shook off her hand with force. I looked at her coldly, and wiped my wrist, which she had grabbed, on my clothes. "It's just a divorce. Why should I consult you? If you don't want the rumors of your infidelity to spread throughout the city, then stop causing any more trouble. Otherwise, we'll both be doomed." Sarah was stung by my disdainful gaze, her eyes revealing a look of hurt. But I didn't care about her feelings. Who was hurt more than just her? The pain in my body and soul is far deeper than hers. I didn't give her a chance to speak further, and walked straight out of that gorgeously decorated yet utterly desolate marital home. After leaving, the feeling of depression in my heart lessened significantly. I even couldn't wait to submit my divorce application on my phone in the open space. Seeing the words "submission successful" displayed on my phone, I let out a long sigh of relief. The process of getting a divorce through legal procedures is quite cumbersome, and when the process reached Sarah, she realized that I wasn't joking about the divorce. She started messaging me non-stop. "James, where are you living now? Let's meet up. Even if you go through legal procedures, I will not agree to divorce you. James, what do you think our years of relationship mean? On what basis do you want a divorce? Reply to my messages quickly. What gives you the right to propose a divorce?" She clearly knows the answer. When Leo approached her again, I don't believe she didn't notice Leo's true intentions, but she had nothing to lose. Instead, she enjoyed the attention of her first love who once abandoned her. Therefore, she shamelessly cheated on me with reasons that sounded grand yet ridiculous, recklessly consuming my feelings for her. All the messages Sarah sent went unanswered, and she started calling me frequently again. I'm fed up with this, and I irritably answered the phone. This time, I didn't give her a chance to speak. "Sarah, if you are willing to part on good terms, I would still think more highly of you. Now, with you begging me not to get a divorce, it makes me feel even more disgusted. Seeing you like this makes me feel like I saved the wrong person back then." Sarah was silent for a long time, without responding. Just as I was about to hang up, she finally made a painful sound, pleading, "I shouldn't have ignored your feelings, James. After so many years of our relationship, can you?" "No." Before she could finish her sentence, I directly gave my answer. I ruthlessly exposed the facade of love she spoke of. "Sarah, don't mention our relationship anymore. That statement disgusts me. Over the years, only my sincerity towards you, and you recklessly consume it." I continued to speak. "Since you love Leo so much, I'll let him take my place. I want to see, without me, whether you can truly move on." After saying that, I decisively hung up the phone, and she didn't call back. Without Sarah's constant interruptions, I fully immersed myself in the work Nathan assigned to me. After a period of recovery, my leg injury improved significantly, although I still couldn't walk as steadily as a normal person upon close observation. It didn't affect my life at all, nor would it hinder my work. I quickly adapted to the new work environment and earned the respect of my colleagues. However, Sarah became entangled in constant scandals. Since that grand wedding, the media has focused their attention on her, trying to uncover some little-known secrets to attract attention. Someone discovered the marriage certificate photo that Sarah posted on her Snapchat. Actually, Sarah and I had already obtained our marriage license before deciding to hold the wedding. She wanted to make the wedding more grand, to create unforgettable memories for us. But unexpectedly, the screenshot of the marriage certificate was used by someone to inquire about it under Sarah's company's official Weibo. Even more shocking was that the staff who took our wedding photos also exposed our marriage pictures, just as the heat of that wedding had not yet dissipated. This incident was revealed, causing a huge uproar online. Some questioned, "Miss Sarah, weren't you and your partner each other's first love after dating for 7 years? Then why does this marriage certificate have another man's name on it? Wasn't the recent wedding fake? Who is your true partner?" In just a few minutes, thousands of questions flooded Sarah's official Weibo. Among them, there are many netizens who love the spotlight, and they dug up videos from the wedding to compare. In fact, the curiosity of netizens didn't even need the parties involved to answer. Just a few hours later, they had dissected our love triangle clearly. Netizens not only revealed the true reason for Leo and Sarah's breakup, but also found video clips of me being retaliated against after saving Sarah at the club. The court has already notified us of the time for private mediation. If Sarah agrees to the divorce during mediation tomorrow, she can clarify on Weibo after receiving the divorce certificate, stating that we had a brief marriage, but it has long since ended. However, what surprised me was that, while the situation continued to escalate, Sarah actually admitted to our relationship on Weibo. Just that one sentence. Without her saying more, the deceived netizens spontaneously flooded into her admission post to criticize her harshly. Some even dug up Leo's Weibo. It openly recorded the sweet daily life of him and Sarah during the 2 weeks leading up to the wedding. Before getting married, he wanted to become a couple with his first love again. This phrase became a classic quote for netizens to tease Sarah and Leo. The comments from netizens were direct and sharp, even more piercing than what I said to her in person. Leo couldn't stand such humiliation, and his clarifications were met with ridicule. Ultimately, he had no choice but to disable the comments section. In comparison, Sarah did not disable the comments section, nor did she make any clarifications. I took just one glance, and then closed Weibo. The insults Sarah endured were consequences that adults had to face after making wrong choices. For those who have nothing to do with me, I will not give her an ounce of extra emotion. The next day when I saw Sarah, her exquisite makeup couldn't hide her fatigue. In just half a month without seeing her, she seemed to have aged several years, and when she saw me, deep regret was evident in her eyes. "James, I truly know I was wrong. I admitted our relationship on Weibo. Did you see it?" She looked at me with hopeful eyes, as if she hoped I would feel a twinge of sympathy for her. Unfortunately, I did not. The sharp comments from netizens made me feel incredibly relieved. Sarah didn't wait for my response, and hurriedly took out a piece of paper from her bag, speaking hurriedly. "I'm pregnant. I'm having your child. You can't divorce me at this time." Her voice was filled with a desperation that was almost crying, but I felt a wave of nausea, as if I had swallowed a fly. I snatched the test report, confirming the fact of the pregnancy. However, the timing was off. I was holding my breath, and threw the report in front of her, and said coldly, "Take a closer look at this time, whose child it really is." Ever since Leo appeared, every time we got intimate, she always stared at my injured leg with disdain. Moreover, she often stayed out all night, and even when she came back, she said she was tired from work and wanted to sleep in separate rooms. Therefore, whose child it is clear in my heart. Sarah looked confused and pained, trembling hands picking up that pregnancy report. I turned to the serious-looking mediator and said firmly, "You all saw it. I do not agree to mediation. Let's proceed directly with the divorce process." However, Sarah seemed to lose control, gripping my hand tightly, and no matter how I struggled, I couldn't break free. She said anxiously, "James, I really know I was wrong. You don't like Leo? I'll make him leave when I go back today. I know you're helping Nathan manage his company now, but if you don't want to be at home, you can come to the company and manage with me. As long as you agree not to divorce, I'll agree to anything you want." I forcefully pried open her pale hand, breaking her illusions word by word. No matter what, I could never agree. Sarah seemed to have lost all support and fell heavily to the ground. The mediation ended in failure, and we were supposed to wait for the court summons. But that very night, Sarah sent me a new divorce agreement. Originally, I only requested a portion of the startup funds, but in this new agreement, she actually divided most of our assets to me. The next morning, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with the signed divorce agreement. Just as we were about to leave with the divorce certificate, Leo suddenly appeared. He first expressed concern for Sarah, then casually picked up the divorce agreement to take a look. But when he saw that most of the assets were to be transferred to me, he looked at Sarah in shock. "Sarah, he only wants to divorce you for your money. How could you be so foolish as to give him most of your assets? That money was earned through your hard work. And besides, if you give him all the money, what will happen to our child?" Seeing Leo, Sarah's eyes turned red, angrily pushing him away. "It's my property. I can give it to whoever I want. What right do you have to criticize me? If it weren't for James, I wouldn't have a single penny. Who exactly was with me for my money? I know it very well. I will never give birth to a child of a third party. If it weren't for you, James and I wouldn't have come to this point." Being bluntly called a third party, Leo's face instantly turned bright red, but he still firmly said, "No, you have come this far for me. I will definitely take responsibility." Responsibility. It would be more reasonable to want the remaining money from Sarah. Seeing Leo's true colors completely exposed, I coldly smiled at him. He is so despicable for his own purposes. It really opened my eyes. However, I won't interfere in their matters. Sarah sighed and said in a low voice, "I will leave the property transfer to the lawyer. You can leave now." I paused my gaze on Leo for a moment, but with bodyguards around Sarah, I left without any burden. That day, Sarah indeed kept her promise, sending a lawyer to handle the property transfer with me. And I also learned that, the day she came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Sarah went to the hospital to terminate her pregnancy with Leo's child. No matter how much Leo opposes, it is futile. When Leo realizes he has gained nothing, he angrily returns home and berates Sarah. Sarah, who is in poor health due to a miscarriage, ultimately faints in anger and ends up in the hospital. After being discharged, she filed a lawsuit against Leo, demanding compensation for the expenses incurred during this time. The two were at odds, neither willing to back down, and became a laughingstock in their circle. I stopped paying attention to their disputes and used the money I received from the divorce to begin discussing a new project investment with Nathan. After taking over the project, I soon saw results. Even without Sarah by my side, I can create my own world. 3 months later, I suddenly received a text from Sarah. She asked to meet me at a restaurant, and when I saw her, I was somewhat shocked by her haggard appearance. After we quietly finished a meal, she finally revealed the reason for our meeting. She doesn't want to get back together, but hopes to sell the company to me. She feels very sorry about the past and has decided to leave here. She mentioned that the company's success also has my contribution, so she wanted to ask if I would be willing to take over. She has prepared the contract with a price far below market value. After signing the contract, Sarah made another request, asking if I could take her to the airport. After 3 years of relationship, I couldn't help but feel emotional and ultimately agreed to her request. I only dropped her off outside the airport and didn't accompany her inside. As I got out of the car, I heard Sarah softly say sorry. I didn't respond and drove away. A plane flew overhead. I extinguished the cigarette in my hand and continued driving towards the unknown future.